Corner 2.0 and fans, yes, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to do the countdown, episode number 113. That's right, guys. If you're not familiar with this show, this is the video series where I count down my least favorite comic of the week and go all the way to that top spot, that number one spot. And this week we have 12 comics to talk about all together that are in the countdown this week. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind you guys to tune in tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as we get ready to kick off episode number 3 of Wednesday Morning Comic Talk. That's right, guys. That's my new podcast that started off. It's right here on YouTube on this channel, Comic Book Corner 2.0. And it's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow morning. So hopefully you guys are able to tune into that. If you can't tune into it live, you can listen to it and comment and ask any questions after the fact. So hopefully, again, you guys will be there. All right, with that being said, everybody, let's get started with this week's countdown. And first off, I wanted to give an honorable mention to Batman Detective Comics, issue number 44. A lot of people recommend this series to me as it has been really good ever since Commissioner Gordon has become Batmech. And so I decided to pick it up, but I didn't know until after the fact that I was at the end of the story arc. So I didn't really get a lot of it out of here. All I got was Batmech doing battle against the Joker robot. And the Joker robot was the Joker's daughter who was controlling the robot. So it was pretty interesting, but I couldn't get the full effect of the story. But I'll definitely be picking up the next issue because it has to deal with the Justice League. So that will be interesting to see where that series goes from there. So, but looks like it definitely has some promise. All right, with that being said, now let's go on to number 12. And number 12 this week, guys, goes to Spider Island, issue number 3. All the Spider books for Secret Wars have been a disappointment for me, except Renew Your Vows. I think that every series tries to have its cool little angle on, different takes of characters and things like that, but it just doesn't work for me. And only that Renew Your Vow series is the one that really hits it for me. And Spider Island, in this particular issue, we find out, it's a continuation of what happens with our heroes going against this Spider Queen, and we find out that they get a hold of Peter Parker and Stegron in the issue, and you find out that Venom is still really the chosen one to be the leader here because Peter Parker has been, out of commission for so long. However, something's not hitting it for me in this particular series. The artwork is pretty cool, but I just don't dig all the superheroes being lizard creatures like the Hulk, because it's the only way they can stop them from having the Queen mind control them or whatnot. Tony Stark continues to be the Green Goblin in this issue because he took the Goblin Serum, again, to lose that control over the Queen, and now he's slowly turning into like a goblin, and you get to see that transformation happen in the particular issue. And their goal is to rescue some of the females that you've known in the Spider-Man universe when it comes to Carly Cooper or Mary Jane and Betty Brant and Sharon Carter in the issue. I don't know, but nothing here like really blew me out of the water. I was like, oh, this is more of the same thing. It felt very repetitive. They rescued the girls, and then you wind up seeing Tony Stark kind of sacrifice himself because he knew he was going crazy, and you get to see that at the end of the issue. So I was like, okay, that's fun. And then you get the I guess which looks like the conclusion to the Mayday Parker story in the issue where she thinks she sees Damios, obviously the one that killed her dad in her universe, and but that's really not the case in the issue. And then you wind up seeing, I guess, what's her name, the Red Queen, who is I guess Pym's daughter or something like that. I'm not too familiar with this world, but that's what you get to see out of here. Again, this book was kind of average for me. Nothing here that really sat there and said, wow, this is good. This is fantastic book. It was okay, so I'm going to give it a 3 stars. Just average for me. All right, so that was number 12. Next, we go on to number 11. And number 11 was Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde issue number 3. Um, there was no really bad comics this week. Just some were better than others for me. The first issue I loved. The second issue I thought took a little bit of a dip down. This is the conclusion to this little story between Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde doing their thing against Gambit. They got captured at the end of Gambit, at the end of the last issue, and here they basically got to try to escape. The artwork is nice. I love the facial expressions. I've said that in the past. But for me, this story really kind of took a turn a little bit in here. It got a little bit too goofy, and that's when I was turned off by this. We wind up seeing that obviously Kitty Pryde has multiple versions of herself in Battle World. That is explained in this book, and obviously you should know that by now if you're reading these Battle World books. There's multiple versions of so many characters in throughout Battle World. And this robot, for some reason, I guess had the intelligence or what, I don't even know what the heck was going on. So Peter Quill winds up kissing her, and they wind up escaping. And then what happens is Gambit uses this weapon, kind of trashes the Doom statue here. And what happens is Doom recognizes what goes on, and he holds Gambit responsible for defacing his statue. That was kind of a stretch there for kind of arresting Gambit or taking care of Gambit at the end of the issue, which I thought was a little bit weak. And but you get thrown for a twist. So just when you think that happens, you get a twist at the end of it. And I'm not going to tell you that part, but it was kind of just like it was just like, oh wow, okay, I get it now. But at the end, you wind up seeing these two have good character interactions at the end of it. You get to see Kitty Pryde kind of kiss Star-Lord at the end, and it was kind of comical, but it wasn't like, I don't think it was like the strongest ending for a series. It was kind of like, hey, let's just do this little battle against Gambit, and let's take care of them at the end. And so all this took place was like in a little museum, and there wasn't much to the actual story. What I really wanted in this particular series was Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde to actually do this adventure together, go somewhere together, and interact more in the Battle World universe or wherever she was to go against Doom. And I thought that would have been a much better story instead of going across the street to a museum. So I don't know. I was a little disappointed by the time this was ended. However, it was still a good read, and I give this one a 3.25 out of 5 stars. All right. Next, we go on to number 10. And number 10 this week, guys, the one that crocked the top 10. I think this book was out for a while, but I finally was able to jump back on to it. And this is Grimm Fairy Tales, issue number 113. In this issue, you wind up seeing the return of our students getting back to Arcane Acre. And this is the kids that are going to be future Realm Knights. This book is written by Patrick Shan, and it's very well written. And the artwork in this is done by David Lorenzo Rivero. I think it's beautiful artwork. It's a gorgeous book to look at. And if you guys are not familiar with this series, this is a good jumping on point for you. Being, though, that I haven't read the book in a little bit, I was a little bit unfamiliar with a couple of the characters in this book, and I felt a little bit disconnected because they kind of are reverting back to what happened in the past. The cool thing, though, is you get a good introduction of some other characters like the teachers, like Sayla Mathers and Shang and Belinda and some of the classic characters that you've known. There's some new characters in the book as well that are attending to the school. And you get a cool introduction to them. You get to see some freaky stuff happen in the actual school about Sayla's daughter, Sky, who's actually seeing this weird, looks like fish-like creature. I don't know what they are. They look like something from Aquaman from the trench or whatever it is. That's what they look like. So I was like, oh, okay. And then you wind up seeing this lion guy who's like tripping on pot or whatever it is. It's like their version of it's called Dream Root, and it's like their version of, like, I don't know, marijuana or whatever it is. And the guy's tripping, and he's same thing. He's seeing more of these creatures. It's a good book, solid read. Just felt a little bit disconnected from it, but I think once I get on board again, I will have no problem, learning more of the characters and feeling connected to the story again. That's the only reason why it got a little bit lower. And I felt like if you were to jump on at this point, I feel that you can get what's going on, but you might not be familiar with the characters and what happened with last year's run on the series. But definitely worth the pickup. So I give Grimm Fairy Tales issue number 113 3.5 out of 5 stars. Gorgeous artwork. All right, next we go into number 9. So we're getting closer to that top 5 comic by comic book. And number 5 goes to Hail Hydra, issue number 2. And here you get to see a Venom on the cover with the Hydra symbol on it, doing battle against Nomad there. This book was kind of interesting because in this issue, you wind up seeing a flashback of Ian and his father, just like the last issue, how never to give up, always stand up and whatnot. But he does battle against his I guess you want to say his twin brother in the battle world, and he just breaks his back. He does an old Bane type of style. But you find out that the real Nomad winds up escaping, and he winds up finding this underground tunnel, and he winds up finding the Rebel Alliance in this version here. And you wind up seeing some weird looking guys in here. You find a weird looking Janet Wasp and Tony Stark. They're all like deformed. Hank Pym's got like one long leg, one like long arm, and it's just like they're all so deformed, But there's this alliance to try to stop what's it called? Zola in the issue and try to defeat him. But what happens is he winds up sending out his Venom symbiote in his Vipers to destroy the day. And this book gets really violent, man. I mean, they just start kicking everybody's asses, especially these Viper chicks or whatever it is. They like start eating like Hank Pym, weirdo Hank Pym right there. They get to start eating him, and they just start taking out people left and right. Janet gets like ripped apart. I'm trying to find the actual page of what happens. Yeah, right here. If you can see that panel there, she gets ripped apart in pieces, and you're just like, oh damn, this shit's violent. And at the end, you wind up seeing, I guess, Steve Rogers' daughter or whatnot wind up getting infected by a symbiote, and Nomad takes him away. So it was cool. I mean, it was a kind of an action-packed book dealing with the Venom symbiote and these Vipers, and it was cool to see Nomad try finding these rebels. And the whole thing of this book was him trying to convince these rebels that he wasn't a traitor, he wasn't working for Zola or anything like that, because obviously he had Leopold's face. So it was a cool book, and I'm anxious to see what happens in issue number 3. And I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, so next we go on to number 8. And number 8 is another conclusion to another Battle World story, and that's Age of Ultron versus Marvel Zombies. So I was anxiously awaiting to see how this one ended, and I felt that this one was rushed a little bit for me. But you got to see the last issue, you wind up seeing all these Age of Ultron guys and the Marvel Zombies like reunite, and they became Ultron zombies, and they're penetrating like the headquarters of Wonder Man and Jim Hammond and the Vision, and you wind up seeing that. So Hank Pym has to go out and he has to create this machine to try to stop the Ultron zombies. And what happens is he's explaining to everybody that it's going to sacrifice their powers together to stop these creatures. And the cool thing is it's interesting to see the artwork in here as the zombies are like Ultrons. They look so weird and dark and creepy, but I thought this story was pretty cool. You get to see all the other heroes saying goodbye to their significant others, and the thing is that you got Hammond's significant other, she winds up being pregnant, and by the time you get towards the end of this issue, you wind up seeing that the Ultron zombies penetrate the fortress, and you wind up seeing his machine go to work. I thought the cool thing was is they go back into Hank Pym's time, and they find out how he was creating his version of Ultron back in the day, and he used the antimanium, and didn't go into description, but you can obviously see it was Wolverine back in the past. So I thought that was pretty awesome. But in the end, you wind up seeing Hank Pym prevail. His machine wound up working, and we wind up seeing that someone sacrificed themselves for Jim Hammond to actually survive or to live. And when the machine works, it was like this hypnotized machine where all the Ultrons and the Marvel zombies were hypnotized by this crazy light, and they were transfixed through the entire time. And from now going forward, there's no threat, and that's how it ends. I liked the book. I thought it was a good book. However, I thought that the ending was a little bit rushed. I thought maybe they could have done one more issue with this. I just don't know how. It just kind of abruptly ended, and everything was nice and perfect, and that's just how they wrapped it up in a little bow and said, well, that's it, game over. I kind of liked how the story was developing. It took a long time to tell issue 1, and issue number 2, you finally got the meat of the story there. And then issue number 3 was going on how he was going to implement the plan. But then issue 4, the plan was implemented, and it was just over, just like that. And I'm like, man, that's kind of a quick ending. But nevertheless, it's over, and it was a solid series. So I give this particular book a 3 3/4 out of 5 stars. All right, now we go on to number 7. And number 7 was Thor's issue number 3. This book was pretty cool. This time around, you find out that Thor winds up capturing Loki in this particular issue, and he interrogates him. And that is a lot of the issue. Jason Aaron is the writer. He's written a really good story here, and the pencilers are done by Chris Sprouse and Goran Zaduska. And I think always that the artwork in this book is tremendous. I thought this was a great book to look at. Always, no matter where it is. Like, look at this page right here. That page is absolutely gorgeous. I'm really enjoying the artwork in here. So visually, it's stunning. However, in this book, in this issue, you wind up seeing this interrogation of Thor and Loki take a very long time. This book took a long time to develop. And for me, I got kind of bored with it. As good as a story this is, I don't need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see what else we got here. 7 pages of dialogue of just Thor interrogating Loki about trying to get information of him. But at the end of this issue, you wind up seeing who the actual traitor is in this book, and you're just like, man, and they left him hanging at the end of it into the Deadlands, and the zombies are just about to eat Thor here, or Ultimate Thor, if that's what you want to call him. And I thought that was pretty badass. And then at the end, you wind up seeing him get rescued by our normal Thor, our 616 Thor. So I thought that was pretty awesome. Really cool stuff. I think this book is good. It wasn't as strong as previous issues because it just took so long to develop. But I really enjoy this series. It's great. I think Jason Aaron's done a phenomenal job with it. I give this one 3 1/4 out of 5 stars. All right, next we have our number 6 book of this week, and number 6 just missed that top 5. I thought this one was kind of intriguing. This book has been either pretty good or it's been crappy, and this was the kind of the better of the issues right here. And in this issue, you wind up seeing Maestro finally. He wants to get the destroyer armor or whatnot to destroy Doom. That's his wish. And then you find out that the old man in the wheelchair that's guarding it is an old version of Rick Jones. And so Maestro definitely gets his wish. He winds up coming to the destroyer, And he threatens Rick Jones, and what happens in the issue is he he's trying to find out if he's actually worthy of this weapon to destroy Doom. And the next thing you wind up finding out is Doom makes his appearance. And you're just like, oh shit, and I'm like, how is this going to turn out? So as a reader here in this book, you're sitting there going, this is like the first real battle that you've seen in Secret Wars besides Doom snapping Cyclops' neck and destroying Doctor Strange in Secret Wars. So I'm like, this is the first time that's crossing over into other books where you get to see this. And you wind up getting to see that he becomes worthy of the armor. And they start doing this cool battle, but it's like Doom was like no match for him. And I'm sitting there reading this book, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, Doom's getting his ass freaking kicked. There's got to be something. I'm like, Doom's got to pull out the freaking ray beams. He's got to sit there and just, do something to destroy this freaking Hulk, and it's just not the case. And then he uses those ray beams, those disintegration beams. He's like, I'm going to pull out the stop, and he's just like, how is this possible? He can't imagine why he can't stop Maestro in the book. And I was just like, dude, and just Doom is getting his ass kicked, and then he tries to bargain with him, and then at the end he just disintegrates him, and I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like, what's happening? And so at the end, all of a sudden you wind up seeing that he's in an arena, and I'm like, well, what's going on now? So here's a spoiler if you don't want to see it, so fast forward a couple seconds. Yeah, you find out that he reverts back to an old Bruce Banner, and you wind up finding out that it's just like a wishing thing. Whatever thing that you wish for comes true, but in your brain, and he's stuck there forever. And I was like, whoa, that is weird. Now, that was a pretty cool ending to this. His whole mission here was to sit there and to destroy Doctor Doom, and he gets it in his brain, but he's stuck in there forever like that. That is pretty badass. I like that ending. And, at the end, it focused just on this character, and it kind of forgot about Ruby Summers and all the other characters, and it just got to him, and the ending was great. And that was a solid ending. I really enjoyed it to an otherwise average series, but just missed my top 5 this week, and this one got 4 out of 5 stars. All right. Next, we're going to go on to my number 5, and this is a one that always pops up every summer, and that is Danger Girl, the new Danger Girl series, issue number 1, and this one's called, if you can see there, it's called Renegade. And here we get to see Abby Chase, and we get to see Abby Chase when she was a young girl, when she's around 13 years old. J. Scott Campbell does the artwork. Love his artwork in here, and the book is written by Andy Hartnell. The artwork inside is a gorgeous book. The colors are really nice in here as well. You get to see some cool action scenes with snakes biting people, and it's always a pretty book to write, to look at. Even if it's a few different artists on there, they kind of always try to keep artists that are very similar in art style. So the book is really, really a gorgeous book to look at. Here's a cool 2-page spread in there. However, in this particular story, we get to see a little bit more of Abby Chase when she was young, when she was like 13 years old, and she was being protected because her dad had these particular secrets, and everybody was after her because they feel that they could get the leverage, over her father. So you can see that she was going from town to town, or city to city, or country to country, trying to get away from everybody. And she had a bodyguard, and her bodyguard's name was David. And you see them traveling all across the country, and you wind up seeing that this bodyguard eventually does get killed. And then it goes up to present day, where you see Abby Chase, but she's on her own, and she's not with the Danger Girl spy agency. We find out in the issue that she hasn't been in contact with Danger Girl for about a year. The book does a pretty good job at describing what Danger Girl is, and some of the, a little bit about the characters in the book. We get to see her escape this other female. Her name is Asia because she wants this particular stone. And then she comes across this guy, this sailor by the name of Dallas that rescues him. And you get the little story. And then at the end, he's sitting there going, well, what now? You going to retire? And she's like, hell no, I'm not going to retire. And you see her pull out that stone that female Asia wants. And then you just get a kind of just a little cover there by J. Scott Campbell, a little page, pinup page, which is absolutely gorgeous. I'm really looking forward to this series to seeing what the story is truly about. I like how you kind of get a really cool jumping on point because Danger Girl comes out like 1 or 2 series a year. And, if you're not familiar with who Abby Chase is, you really get a feel of that in this issue. And this one was cool because, again, you get to see her little bit of a childhood and how precious she was to some other people. So after reading this one, I gave this one a 4.25 out of 5 stars. All right, next we go into number 4. And this one is a little bit of a surprise for me. I like the last issue, but I like this one a little bit more. Maybe some of you guys might not agree with me, but this is House of M, issue number 2. I like all the portrayal and the action that was going on and the strategic planning that was going on in this particular issue. In this book, you wind up seeing Magneto, who's pretty got everything under control right now. And the only thing he pretty much does is battle himself in chess. And you get to see this mysterious person talking in the background. And it's like real big eyes. And you're kind of like, well, who is this in the background? But then the book winds up taking a focus. And I think this book is written by Dennis Hopeless. Yeah, Dennis Hopeless, who did Avengers Arena. Death Locket's in this book, who was also in Avengers Arena. So you can see how he really likes the character, which I think is nice. And we get to see a small band of rebels that are left. You wind up seeing Death Locket, Misty Knight, Felicia, and you wind up seeing Clint as these rebels. And they're trying to come up with a way to try to stop Magneto's rule. And what happened is Death Locket's dad passed away, and she has this huge army of Deathlocks and old school Deathlocks, and they're not programmed very well. They can only do like basic tasks, but they say we can set this army against the castle or House of M, and we can basically create a distraction, and we can attack Magneto. And then they came up with this cool little arrow tip and to nullify Magneto's powers. So their plan goes into action, and you wind up seeing it happening in this book. And you wind up seeing a little bit of Scarlet Witch in here too, where her kids are acting up bad, and you wind up seeing Magneto's elite guard try to take care of the situation, but that was a little bit of a side story. I didn't really get that much out of it. But the cool thing is you get to see the attack on the Castle Magnus in here with all the Deathlocks, and you wind up seeing it being a huge distraction, and it wound up penetrating the fortress. They wound up using the arrow to get Magnus in there. They nullify his powers, but then everything is interrupted by the creature that was inside Magneto's room, and that was Fing Fang Foom. And then he starts causing all kinds of chaos because he wants to start to eat them. And then the next thing you wind up seeing is Quicksilver and Namor. They've teamed up like they did in the last issue, and they're trying to overrun the castle as well. And you get to see that at the end. I was like, man, there's all kinds of betrayal and action going on in this book. And I was like, I loved it. I had a lot of fun. I loved the planning that went out in this between the characters. You get to see everyone wants to go after Magneto and take his rule here. And I just thought it was a lot of fun, and I thought the characters work. It's an improbable situation how they were going to succeed, and then they succeeded by this unlikely monster. So great stuff. I had a lot of fun again. So this was a good one. I gave this one 4.25 out of 5 stars. All right, now we go on to number 3. And number 3 this week, guys, was Platona. Jeff Lemire's Platona, issue number 1, an introduction to a new series. Emmy Lennox is the actual artist in this book. And I had a lot of fun with this particular issue just because it does a great job introducing the cast of characters that really find a superhero that's dead in the woods. May not be a superhero that you care about or I care about, but it's a superhero in this brand new universe. And you wind up seeing cool simplistic artwork, which I thought was kind of neat. You got to see a little bit of a background of the characters, where their families are like, how their families are run, and then you get to see how our kids interact with each other in school and whatnot, and their type of personalities, which I think will make for a very, very strong book going into the future, because these characters' personalities are so strong. But by the time you wind up getting to the end of this book, we find out that the main character, Mai, or we think she's the main character in the book, her little brother goes running off, and we wind up finding out, and when they go deep into the forest, you wind up finding either it's a dead superhero or unconscious superhero, which is otherwise known as Platona. And then they have a comic within the comic explaining the Platona character on how she has a family and how she lives on Earth. And so I thought that was a really neat idea, again, to get you to know these characters that you've never read before. And I really enjoyed that, and I thought that was a lot of fun. And so after reading this one, I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Definitely recommend this series while you still can jump on it. All right, next, number 2 was We Stand on Guard, issue number 3. This book was a lot of fun. This book keeps getting better and better, written by Brian K. Vaughan. Steve Scroce does the artwork. I've said it before. I said I did an individual on this one. The artwork in this book is absolutely gorgeous. Just Brian K. Vaughan's vision of what the future is going to be like when it comes to military operations, and just the way the actual vehicles and military looks like is just outstanding. I love his vision in this book. And in this book, we wind up finding that the USA is doing an interrogation on one of the characters. Her name was McFadden, that was captured. And the interrogation is like a VR. You get to see that here. It's like a virtual reality type of torture where you won't die, but you still feel all the torture. So they can do anything that they want. So what they do to get information from this character is they wind up sticking her in a tank of gasoline, burning her freaking face off, and there she is in a virtual reality chamber, recovering from her real wound injuries. So it's like mental injuries that they're going through, and they're trying to find out the information of where the actual rebels are being stored at here, because they want to capture them, and obviously they did damage to their little United States Army or whatever it is. I thought it was a really awesome book. The artwork is outstanding in this book, and I like how it gives you little pieces of the past of how this war started and what the war is actually about. And I think this story is just going to get better and better as you read it, and the more things that unfold and the more you know about this war, you're going to be like, man, this is going to be crazy. So We Stand on Guard, definitely a book I definitely recommend to all you guys out there. I give this one a 4 3/4 out of 5 stars. All right, what got number 1 book of the week for me? Well, number 1 book goes to Green Arrow, issue number 44. I'm finally back on full board with Green Arrow. This one actually just captured me. I really love this book. You know why? Because I'm a sucker for animals. And I didn't have the other cover, but it has to deal with Ollie's new pet wolf, and that is George. Well, he's a wolf, and he's like a mix. He's a mix of I think it was a husky and a wolf or whatever it was. But in this issue, you get to see some cool narration with Oliver in the beginning, and you wind up seeing how he feels that every time he gets close to a woman, the woman doesn't know him right. He can't talk to her and whatnot. But the cool thing about this book is that he's got a new sidekick next to him, someone that will never question him, someone that will always love him no matter what, and that's George. That's George the Wolf. And it was pretty cool in the beginning of this particular issue because they're in Seattle and in the fish market, and he winds up capturing a fish, and he winds up eating the fish, and then they go to this fortune teller, and she winds up predicting that something's going to happen to Oliver, and they wind up getting the backstory of George in this actual issue. So yeah, you wind up seeing the backstory of George and where he came from. And I thought that this was brilliant. I mean, I've never seen an issue dedicated to a wolf before, you know? And I thought that was so much fun how it like the father was dedicated, was like part of a pack of wolves, and then he came across this warrior who winds up killing all the pack of wolves except for I guess the father wolf, and because he felt sorry for him, and he wound up healing him, and he wound up being his sidekick, and then you wind up seeing that obviously the father wolf wound up mated with a Siberian husky, and you wind up finding out that that's how Ollie's new wolf came to be, and the buyer wound up shipping the wolf to, I guess, Seattle or whatever it was, but somehow they wound up reuniting, and it was a really interesting story, and I loved seeing that. And again, it was just funny to see how anytime Ollie gets close to a female, he just sits there and casts him away. But you know, he'll always have George. And the cool thing is you wind up getting to see this new cast of characters. I forgot their name at the top of my head. But I thought they were really cool, and then you get to see someone introduced, a new superhero by the name of Tarantula, and it's a female, and I was like, oh wow, she's pretty badass, and she was taking out these bone guys, and she's got like this knife at the end of her hand, and I was just like, man, this shit's crazy, and what they want, I guess, is they wanted the wolf and they wanted his bones. So it was a really interesting story, and I really liked it. This was like a book this was like, I think the first book I read, or one of the first books I read for the week. So I read it like, I think, last Thursday, and so I apologize for forgetting a couple of the details in the book. But I just remember when I put it down, I was just like, wow, this was an awesome book, and I just again love seeing the story of this wolf, where he came from, how he met Ollie, and I like the new mystery character Tarantula in there. She looks pretty cool, and I'm definitely back on board with Arrow. Hopefully now we can keep this freaking creative team. Because that's been the problem with this series ever since the New 52 has come out, is we've had, I think this is the 4th creative team now in 44 issues, which is, I think, a little ridiculous. But nevertheless, good book. If you guys are not reading Green Arrow, if you haven't jumped on board yet since the new creative team after Convergence, I think this is a good time to do it. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. So guys, there you have it. There is the countdown for the week. You've seen the worst, you've seen the best, and you've seen all that other stuff in between. Now it's your turn to leave in the comments below what your favorite comics of the week were, what your least favorite comic book of the week was. And fans, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. And until the next comic book review, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off, and I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for Wednesday morning Comic Talk. Take care, fans. See you soon. Bye.